What's going on, guys? It's the Money Talk Show with Dane, where we talk about all sorts of interesting topics here relating to crypto and real estate primarily. We're doing our best to be the bridge between entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and the crypto world to take advantage of what we feel like is the best opportunity over the next few years, and it's not even close. So if those are things that you're interested in, you're in the right place. We have an excellent guest on the show today that we've benefited heavily from the content that he and some of his peers have created. And so we are humbled and excited to have him on. But before we get into Crypto Sloth, Corey, take it away.
Yeah, man, just truly pleasure to be here twice today to bring you guys tremendous value in this beautiful asset class we call cryptocurrency. We do believe we are at the perfect time, the right place, right time, with the opportunity that we see on the horizon with the Fed raising the interest rates, going into the Bitcoin halving, completely wrecking the markets, giving us some of the best buying opportunities we've ever seen, and going into 2024, where we're going to make seriously life-changing legacy wealth, using crypto as a wealth creation and using real estate as a wealth preservation down the road. And one of these guys who's really contributed to me and Dane's education and really give me the reassurance in some of my investments and some of the assets in my portfolio and the money I've allocated to those assets is this gentleman right here, Mr. Crypto Sloth. He's been an absolutely go-giver when it comes to the Hedron and Icosa asset class and really breaking down the complexity of this ecosystem, because it's not easy, man. There has been nothing easy to understand really, except, I mean, you obviously go in there and say, hey, just stake it or whatever. But like me, we want to know why. Like same with Dane. We want to know why. What's it doing? Like, what's the game theory behind all this? And so, like, man, you've just been a true blessing to, I feel like, the whole hexagon ecosystem as a whole. So thank you so much for joining us today, my man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for that very gracious and generous intro. I appreciate it. I'm glad my content's helped you guys out. I'm super excited to be on here. Been watching you guys. You've had some awesome guests recently, and real estate's a thing. As we talk about this in the background, real estate's something I want to learn more about. As I believe these crypto bags are going to grow. Which when you have money, the thing, once you have it, is to preserve it, right? And so at some point you need to have some kind of diversification of assets. And so it's really awesome to see you guys spreading that realm of education for all of us for real estate, because obviously it's been one of the biggest wealth builders in the past couple of decades. So I think it's important to, whether or not you get into it or not, having knowledge about different types of asset classes is important. So I appreciate the work you guys are doing. I'm excited to learn something from you guys, and I'm excited to talk about some Icosa Hedron. As you guys can probably tell, it's one of my favorite subjects.
Absolutely. One of ours too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've got a number of people on the show today. If you guys are watching, comment where you're tuning in from today. We almost never stream at this time, so I'm curious how our audience is a little bit different today. Helps the algorithm. Post where you're tuning in from today. It's fun to see where the audience is from. While you guys are making those comments, we'll get into Sloth's story a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. So we try to keep these shows to about an hour. We're not a show that wants to go for 4 hours. It's just not watchable.
We'll let someone else
Leave the 8-hour streams to Richard Hart when he comes back.
Yeah, we're not those guys. So we'll try to keep it nice and tight today, and move through some of the topics relatively quickly so we can cover all the stuff that we want to. But let's go ahead and start with you, Sloth. So give the guys that are tuning in today, give us a little bit of background on you, how you found Richard Hart, how you ended up with Hex and Hedron and Icosa, what you're doing today. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff you could talk about, your guys' group that you had or
we'll
have.
Show that at the end for sure.
Yeah, we'll show.
We're gonna show that at the end.
Yeah, so talk us through all that stuff.
Yeah, so I'll just talk my journey into crypto. So for anybody, I think most people know, but for anybody this is the first time listening to me, I'm a dental student. So I'm currently in my third year of dental school. And kind of towards the beginning of that, I was listening to a bunch of podcasts, and one of them had Charlie and Miguel, Charlie from Cultivate Crypto, Miguel Dollar Cost Crypto. They have a Miguel DCC. He's like a Hex OG, one of the first streamers in the Hex community ever. I'm sure you guys know. But they have a course, and I was listening to them on the podcast, and for some reason, like when the way they were talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum, like it just something clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, duh, like this is the next asset class to be in. Like I've known about Bitcoin like forever, like the classic. I was in high school and I almost mined some, but I was like, it wasn't worth it, or like it was like you see it and then you just ignore it, and then it goes up in price later, and like, oh, that's interesting, and then you ignore it again. But for some reason, like how you have those moments where people explain something and all of a sudden it just like clicks in your head. So like once that switch flipped in my head, I just kind of went all in researching and learning about it. And I took their course for a couple quarters, did a bunch of consults with Miguel, and that kind of jump started my education. And so I was just like all into a bunch of different ecosystems, of course, one of them being the Hex ecosystem. And that one was like always kind of my favorite amongst all of them, as I was learning a bunch of different things from different blockchains, different consensus mechanisms, just getting a nice palette of what the crypto space has to offer. And eventually I pretty much consolidated mostly into RH stuff. Eventually, obviously, Icosa Hedron stuff, because that's just the thing I like the most and the thing that I had the most long-term confidence on. And I'd always wanted to create content in some way, like since I was a kid, but I never really had anything I was like interested enough to like talk about like publicly. Like it's not something that I want to make content just to make content. I want like to have
it's hard to
something
create
talk about
content if you got nothing to talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, it's only easy if you're making a bunch of money from it, but you got to do it for a long time before you can make any money from it. So it's like it's just a waste of time to create content just for the sake of creating content. And like in the Hex community, I feel the streamers did a really, really good job of like unpeeling the onion that's Hex and like putting all the information out there that you need to know to be able to comfortably invest. So I was like, yeah, maybe I could create Hex content, but I feel like the conversation has already been had. I didn't feel like there's anything I could add to the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I was just a consumer of the content and enjoying it. And then once I found out about Hedron, which I found out about 2 months before it came out, that was just another one of those moments like you find something out and it's just like, you're like you're on a drug. Like, everyone has that moments when they talk about Hex where you like just get it and you're just like euphoric for like days.
Yep.
And I had this exact same thing for Hedron. That was way before even we knew about Icosa. And so that's when I was like, okay, now I have something I can talk about that I care about, that I'd like to produce content for. And that's kind of how my channel got started. And basically just from there, I just been creating content whenever I feel like it, whenever I feel like, oh yeah, here's something I want to talk about, or I want to get out to the community, make some slide decks, and I'll just start talking about it. And I've been very humbled about how receptive people have been to what I put out and how generous people have been with their compliments. And I'm really glad, like for you guys, I've been able to help you guys under out and, make it, help you make a little bit of money too. That's always a good thing.
That's it, man, because you when you invest your money, you want to have you want to make the smartest decision, right? And you want to do your due diligence, but that's like hard to do. And like you do that due diligence for us, and you explain why and all the math behind it, the game theory, and you break it down to a way where a simple person can understand.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yeah. Like, so I've also have like a big interest in like science, like scientific research. I spent 2 years doing like neuroscience research at the NIH, and like have a big interest in like philosophy, argumentation, logic, and reasoning. And so like, my channel is kind of like this cultivation or like this intersection between crypto and these other interests I've had of like elucidating arguments and like elucidating the fundamental components of something that I find really interesting, and then portraying that in a digestible manner where people get what's going on without having to do all that digging themselves. So it's really interesting to see. It's interesting to see my previous intellectual interests come out through like crypto.
Interesting. Are you so on a personal note, are you involved in a relationship?
Yeah.
So the reason that I asked is because Corey and I are both married, and it's interesting when you're like, oh, I have this like logic and theology background, and I'm like, anytime like that. I found that can make it difficult to be very logical in a relationship. And so I'm curious what your experience has been, how you've applied that to your own personal life, or had to like disseminate between when to do what and how to act accordingly.
Yeah. Fortunately, I have a really awesome partner, and me and her met in college. So I'm in dental school, and she's in medical school right now. And so we had a lot of classes together, studying all like the biologies and chemistries and stuff like that. And so we had a lot of long late night conversations about a lot of the stuff that I'm interested. So she's like kind of on board on all of it, and has been a big influence into the way I think and approach this kind of stuff. So I'm lucky to have a partner who kind of is like all in on that with me. And she's a crypto degenerate too. I got her on board for that. So that is great. So that helps out too.
Hey, that's unique, man. I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay.
That is great. That is great.
Oh,
Yeah, that's me.
This is an interesting. My answer to that is tell my girlfriend that I'm autistic.
When you're Chad Donnerswans, you don't have to say much.
Right.
Yeah, my wife thinks I'm crazy sometimes, man, because I'll be up to like 2 in the morning researching this stuff and learning about it, and be in the Telegram chats, and just like, oh my god, it's become a very healthy obsession, but an obsession nonetheless, you know. And I have a very addictive personality in general in life, and everything I do in life, and crypto has been no different.
There's a lot of nights we're sitting on the couch. My wife's like, "What are you doing over there?" And I look over and I said, "I'll give you one guess." She's like, "I don't know how you don't get bored of all that crypto stuff." I'm like, "Man, I'm in it. Let's go." Cool.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. Staying up late. I mean, how do you think I get all this content? It's just like I need to get all this stuff out of my head somewhere.
Right.
That's cool. Well, let's get into some of the Hedron and Icosa stuff.
Oh man, Icosa's not a tear. Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Oh man,
Icosa this morning. I didn't know that. We're on the show this morning, and we're talking about hex mooning, and we had no idea. And like, we open up one of the charts, and we see this happen to see Icosa. And Icosa's not 80 cents. No.
Yeah.
Seriously, sure enough, man, it was. I'm like, oh my god.
I was wondering if the price feed was broken on Crispy Man's website.
But we thought it was broken.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. All of them are going up together. And I was telling Corey this in the back room before you came in, Dan. But like, I don't know, for me, like the Icosa pumps hit a little different, because after a dip, you've accumulated just a stupid amount more of Icosa. So when it pumps up, it's just like my whole portfolio just explodes.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, it's just crazy to watch the numbers. I mean, I showed my wife this last night, and like similar to you, Dane, I was kind of showing her all my portfolio, but not with the Icosa. I didn't show the Icosa, so now I'm going to be going home tonight and showing her the Icosa part. I'm like, look, honey, this is what we.
So one of the questions that I've been pondering a lot about, and I imagine a lot of the audience has had some of these similar thoughts. So, you know, before Hedron or I should say before the Icosa protocol launched, and we could go and sell hex stakes back to the contract and bid on those that came up for auction and things of that nature. There's a lot of talk about the ceiling price of Icosa and Hedron relative to hex. And there's a lot of speculating to see like, where did those actually end up at? Would, for instance, Icosa keep parity with hex, and where it was at? And the answer, at least so far in the short term during this hex pump, has been a resounding no. Hex has taken off, and Icosa and Hedron have largely stayed where they've been at for quite a long while now. And so I'd love to know, I have my own thoughts and feelings, and they are positive. But I'd love to know kind of what your thoughts and feelings are behind that, and kind of get a feel for, do you think, in fact, Corey could chime in. He's got a pretty strong opinion on catching up to ceiling prices and timeframes for that. So let's kind of unpackage that.
Yeah. So I think the best way to understand it, or at least the way that I frame it, is that like Hedron and Icosa have a similar relationship to hex as other altcoins do to Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yep.
So traditionally, when the going knowledge for the way money flows in crypto is that it first enters Bitcoin and Bitcoin pumps. Now, whenever Bitcoin pumps, it kind of sucks the air out of the room, because everyone's like, oh my God, Bitcoin's pumping, and all the money flows into Bitcoin because they don't want to miss those pumps. Then after that, it goes to Ethereum, and then from Ethereum, it spreads into the altcoins.
Like a waterfall.
Exactly. I think Hex is going to have that same relationship, both to Hedron and Icosa, but also all the other cool things that are being built on top of Pulse Chain and everything. Like even Pulse Chain and Pulse X will kind of take a step back whenever Hex pumps, because Hex is like the fundamental thing that like Richard Hart cares about, and it's the thing that got us all together in the first place. So I think
it is core value for the whole ecosystem. Period. Is Hex.
Exactly.
It is our Bitcoin.
Yep, exactly.
It is it.
Yeah. So I think that's to be expected. Like, each of them while they are fundamentally tied to Hex and the T-share, they are their own independent assets with their own liquidity pools, and the market will decide what the price of those things should be based on supply and demand, just like everything else. And I think talking about ceiling prices, I think this may have been, if I had to redo all the stuff I did before, maybe I would have emphasized more that the ceiling price isn't something where the prices need to be for it to be healthy, or that the prices ever need to go back to the ceiling prices for it to be a good thing. I think it's better understood as like, this is like the max the price can go before an arbitrage opportunity opens up, where you can like buy Hex, stake it, and then get Icosa or Hedron of more dollar value than what you put into Hex. So it's like a virtual ceiling on how high the price can go before arbitrage will bring it down. Now, we saw that in Icosa at the beginning, because the only way to get it was through the HSI buyback mechanism. So like literally every Icosa that existed was like 1-for-1 that ceiling price. That's how much people paid. So it didn't make sense to sell it for anything less, because you just paid that much. As soon as the staking pools opened up and we started to see inflation from the HSI liquidation auctions as well as the staking pools, those were two other mechanisms for Icosa to enter the market that wasn't directly tied to Hex being exchanged for the Icosa, which is why we see the price start to deviate away from it. But if you notice, and I'm just looking at my website right now.
In fact, go ahead and share your screen. Let's see the data you're looking at. That'd be useful.
So this is my website, lookintohedron.com, where I pulled up my Google Sheet calculators that I made before, and I made them into an easy to use format on this website. And if you look here on the live stats, you'll see that Hedron has a 54x to the ceiling price, and Icosa has a 5x to the ceiling price. So even though Icosa isn't at the ceiling price like it used to be, it's much closer than Hedron is right now.
Yeah,
and that's a function of people who got Hedron got 2 years of a back supply once the protocol launched. So much more of it was available for free without you having to put any skin in the game. Versus Icosa, all of them that existed are at least derived from people giving up T-shares to get them, or they had to wait some time to have their stakes end, or they had to bid with Hedron to get it off the liquidation auction.
Yeah.
So the dynamics there are different, and that, I think, to me at least, explains this big discrepancy right there.
And I think there's a lot to be said about that. So, you look at this data, and initially, if I'm considering for my own portfolio buying Hedron or Icosa, and I want to go top up some of those positions, well then, like I would look at this data and it seems pretty clear that I should go scoop up Hedron if all I was taking into account were the differences in the prices to the ceilings that theoretically these could be reached. I think it's an interesting discussion to consider. Just like you said, there was so much inflation with Hedron, and frankly, there's still a lot with the 10x multiplier bonuses on the Hex stakes for people that participated in that. And one of the narratives I've heard going around, and I haven't made up my mind around it, and we love your feedback, is that Icosa is the better play, if you will. And I know this is like a very subjective thing, whatever the better play, what that actually means. But I think it's interesting to consider the fact that Hedron has so much inflation now. Icosa is in its early stages where the inflation is significant there. But what would you say to that narrative? What are your thoughts in that respect?
To the narrative that Icosa is a better buy because Hedron just inflates, or at least is given for free to people who don't care about it. A significant portion of the inflation is given
narrative.
to free. Yeah,
right.
So someone else can dump it to oblivion.
Right.
Yeah. So let's see. How do I want to frame this? So the fact that there are people who have a lot of have the faucet to Hedron inflation that at least presumptively don't care about it, like, is true. Like, that's a fact of the system. And I think a fair criticism for people to bring up. Like, if you're investing in the system, you should know that there are people who can mint a lot and you don't have the ability to mint that. Versus Icosa, everybody who has it to a degree has put skin in the game to get it, which therefore means they value it. I think that's a perfectly valid line of argumentation on why. Now, there are counter arguments to that, and one is the first. It's reflected in the difference in the ceiling prices that we just saw. But here's another way to frame it. So right now, if you want to mint 1 billion Hedron, the way you would do that, the cheapest, is by accumulating 180 T shares for 5,555. So you would need to stake 180 T shares, wait 15 years, and then at the end of that, you get 1 billion Hedron. Now, what that tells me is that
it's a fortune.
The amount, like, that's not happening. Nobody's staking 100. No average retail investor is staking 180 T shares for 15 years because that's like 200 grand.
On average, yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah, most people are priced out of that.
Yeah, most people are priced out of that from just accumulating that much hex. And then the people who have that amount of money, how much of them are comfortable locking that amount of money up for 15 years?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not that many people. It's really only the early hexicans who got these things at so much cheaper that have those large T-shares for that long of a period of time. It's going to take a special person with a lot of money to do that. And they're only getting 1 billion Hedron, which is worth like almost 3 grand right now. But like, that's more accessible to the retail investor. Most people can get 1 billion Hedron, even if they're in a situation where 3 grand is a lot. Over time, they can get it.
Right.
And so what that means is the inflation going forward for Hedron, for new stakes, anybody entering the market is zero. It's negligible. Like 1 billion Hedron in terms of volume, liquidity is nothing. It's zero, right? So the only inflation that we have now is from the people with those large launch phase bonuses with long T-shares. That's another thing to consider, because as people, most of the OG hexicans, all of their stakes aren't for 15 years. They have ladders coming out every month or every quarter. And every single time one of those ends, that 10x bonus is gone like that.
Have you done the math, or have you done the chain analysis, I guess, to see where the majority of all those 10x bonuses, like what year do we need to hit to say, okay, the 60% of those 10x bonuses are out of the system, or where we kind of crossed over that 50% at the very least? Have you done some kind of chain analysis on that to know where I think that's going to make a big difference or a big impact of supply shock in the future.
Yeah. So not yet, but I am working very closely with, with Access Alive and Crispy Man from hexfire.io, and we're coming up with some pretty cool charts in the background. He's a data science wizard, and so me and Access just kind of give him ideas, and he just creates it. But
good.
But that is actually tracking the amount of the backlog of mintable Hedron is probably the next thing on my docket for things I want to create. I'm still working. I want to add it to my chart set on lookintohedron.com, and I want to see that data myself.
Just having that information very accessible would give a lot of new retail investors some assurity about the asset in itself.
Yeah.
Like, right, even if, like, say, a year from now or even 2 years, we're in the bull run and we have a lot of new retail coming in, we go, hey, look, you only have about 3 more years left of this inflation, and then that's all you need to hold for. So the next market cycle, you can expect this to really moon, right? Or I don't know. I'm just making something up now, but you get like the talking point we can get out of that. Yeah.
Well, so I won't talk about this stuff that much because I don't really engage with a lot of this stuff as much. Not because I don't want to, but just because I just create my stuff and I kind of go away and like do school. But like, where was I going with this? But I find these arguments against Hedron to be kind of lacking because I can find a almost 1-to-1 corollary in hex. So like one of the earliest like fun arguments of hex is like, look, all these OGs are just gonna get all this hex, they're staked it, and they're just gonna dump on your heads into perpetuity. And like that's kind of like the exact same argument. If you look, Access Alive and Crispy Man have done a lot of work on the bow wave or the rolling hex stakes of 30 to 90 days. those people, they stake 30 to 90 days, they skim off the interest, and they dump it, which is the exact same thing that happens with the Hedron minters. Because every time they mint, they have to wait before they can mint that same amount again. So they mint, sell it, wait 30 days, sell it. That's the exact same dynamic that the short-term hex stakers have, but now we see it in the long-term hex stakers. So it's like we have this like continual churning out of coins coming into the market, both in hex, both in Hedron. And the main difference between them, and really the only difference, in my opinion, the main difference, I won't say only, that's a pretty strong statement, is that the people in hex had to at least put money into it first, but the people in Hedron got it for free. That's the only thing that doesn't make it like one for one. But
I don't consider it free, man. They had to wait. They don't realize it when they minted it, but they had to wait 2 years to get that amount of Hedron that they dumped. I mean, it was not free.
But it feels free.
It does.
It does.
It feels like an airdrop, but it wasn't.
Yep. Exactly. So, I think we have seen the market absorb their supply. Like Hedron has done incredible pumps despite the amount of inflation. And, we have, hex OGs, like people like Steph, who are very vocal about their selling. And I think that's fine. They've earned the Hedron that they have. It's their money. They're allowed to do what they want with it.
Right.
There's no like ethical problem with them dumping this token. And honestly, it's given people like me who didn't get into hex that early an opportunity to accumulate an amount of Hedron that I have no ability to access through minting it. So
sure. No, that's a good. What would you say? Hex derivatives are an interesting conversation because a lot of people have they have issues. So like one of the things you see a lot on Twitter, I can't remember who was it that posted it the other day. You'll when I say it, you'll know it. So some of these people more recently, they're like, oh, I wish that instead of creating all these shit coins, I wish that people would have just bought Hex. If they would have just done that, Hex would be way up instead of money being diluted across all these different derivatives. What would you say to that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like with the thing I was talking about with Hedron, where like the argument makes sense. It's like superficially true. I just think it lacks like proper context or proper framing. I think the framing is wrong because if you look at it from like, yes, different tickers with different liquidity pulls USDC or ETH away from the main ticker that you're looking at. Like that is true. The question is like, at what magnitude does it do it? And the other question is, are there other benefits these tickers are providing the main one that it simply wouldn't have without it? So one of the fair criticisms about Hex, which is like, it's like a double-edged sword for X. The greatest thing about it is also its biggest weakness, and that is mutable. So because it's immutable, there's nothing else to really talk about. This is the same thing I was talking about with me wanting to potentially start a channel about. I was like, well, there's nothing to say. We've kind of figured it out. And now we just do it and then wait for price appreciation and our stakes to come out, which in of itself is a good thing. Like kind of having boring money that is reliable is a good thing. But because it's still crypto and part of like that speculation aspect, or at the very least, speculation has what in the past 3 years driven the price to go up to crazy amounts. A lot of people buying versus a lot of people buying and people not selling until the sellers come down and create volatility to the downside. When you lose some speculative stickiness due to a lack of updates over time or a lack of news over time, that it can be interpreted as weight on that specific asset. Now, fortunately, Richard Hart has created Pulse Chain and this whole new sandbox of coins that are different tickers that will quote unquote pull money away from Hex. But yet because of that, we have more things to talk about. And because we have more things to talk about, we have more what I like to call like intellectual stickiness around the Hex product.
And so also, I think one other thing it does is it compounds the amount of eyeballs that are looking into the ecosystem, because everybody who's just looking directly at Hex is like, okay, that's just Hex. That's been here for 4 years. We know that. And now there's all these other new shiny objects coming out that correlate back to Hex that is going to inevitably or inversely pump Hex by bringing people into the ecosystem. But
let me ask you guys this question. How much more confident are you in your Hex investments after understanding Hedron and Icosa?
Oh, way more.
Oh, way more, because you saw what kind of things we can do around the Hex product.
Exactly.
And
Hedron...
And I have not. So, and maybe this is me just not understanding the maxi perps. They just don't get me excited like Hedron and Icosa do. And that's just, I think that's largely just a preference thing. Shout out to the maxi team. You know, it's cool they're building what they're building. And if that's your cup of tea, I think it's great. But I really like Hedron and Icosa, and frankly, I bought way more hex than I was planning on to go sell back to the Icosa contract. I wouldn't have done that otherwise. I wouldn't have bought it because I felt pretty good about where I was at hex wise, and I'm like, I'm cool. And then this new shiny thing comes out, and I was like, oh gosh, we got to go get some more, and we'll sell this crap off. And it was fun. It was really fun. It created a lot of newness and life in the ecosystem that, frankly, I think a lot of the community was feeling. Now, you know, like hex is not dead, not by a long stretch of the imagination, but it can feel that way in the bear market as price goes down and somebody buys, and then it goes down and somebody buys, and then it goes down. And Hedron and Icosa, I felt like really brought more life back to the ecosystem.
I agree.
Nice.
Yep. I mean, like, you know, when you understand Hedron and Icosa, like, you are forced to understand hex in a completely different light and with a greater depth of understanding.
Oh my God.
So, like, the way I see, like, my role in the hex community, because I'm fundamentally a hexican, is like, it's what I call intellectual stickiness, in that Hedron and Icosa give a whole new depth and layer for that class of investor that wants that, like, more complex intellectual, like, thing that keeps them coming back, and the thing that they need to kind of bend their mind around to understand. Now, that's not going to be everybody. Not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone's going to want to be in here. But for people like us three who stay up all night thinking about this stuff, like Hedron and Icosa, were something amazing to keep us coming back and feel like, oh yeah, I'm all into these three tokens. I love hex. I love these three things. And I'll speak for you guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, we believe that these things are going to do really, really great price wise over time.
Right.
Like that's why we're here. And that's why we study this stuff so much. Yeah.
I mean, it's mostly tech for me and Corey. We're less concerned about the price appreciation.
I'm in it for the tech, baby.
Yeah, Dane can speak for himself on that one. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying some of the tech. I mean, like I said, I'm becoming a node validator. I love learning about liquidity providing. Yeah. Gamma's teaching me. Gamma.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to Gamma. He's listening. He's amazing. Yeah. And I'm getting kind of geeked out in the whole crypto space. I came for green candles. Don't get me wrong. I came for number go up, but I'm getting pretty entertained with the tech. I would say it like that. I'm getting very entertained with the tech. And that's where the addiction's kind of coming in, actually, is the tech part. Although number go up is what got me here. And it's keeping me here too. If number wasn't going up, I wouldn't be here, right? If I didn't believe number would never go up, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to go focus my time and energy on something else. So I had to have number go up for me to stay around.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. We're here to make money. We're here for price to go up. We're here to speculate a bit. And, like, you know, that's why we're in Hex, Hedron, and Icosa, because those things will probably do what we would like them to do.
Yes.
But man, I think there's something that, oh God, it's just it's a high, man. Like adrenaline, endorphins, learning this stuff. And really when you start to understand it, like when the light bulb when it goes on, like the endorphins that kick in from that, it's like none other.
It's crazy.
Oh, it's fun. Yeah. People ask all the time, you know, like, you hang out with new people and they're like, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, well, I like to work a lot. I mean,
dopamine.
I like to work, and my work is crypto. Like, that's kind of my hobby. So here's a thought that I've been having, and I've been bouncing around in my head, and I'm not sure what conclusions I'm coming to, if any, frankly, for that matter. So Corey and I are both working on growing our TikToks to be able to bring more our TikTok accounts, to bring more adoption to all of the beloved assets that we like. And it blows my freaking mind how the engagement of the stupid meme coins with no utility, those videos, the engagement is enormous. It's like nothing else. Nothing is even close. And all the dumb, you know, retail, apparently they want that stupid stuff. And so it has me thinking, you know, an ecosystem like Hedron and Icosa, I'm not aware of, at least for my portfolio, I'm not in anything more advanced than that. Like, that is pretty well tip of the spear type of stuff for my portfolio. And I've been pondering on the idea a lot. Retail's not coming to Hedron and Icosa, in my opinion. They're not. It's
Not
too
yet,
advanced. They don't care about that. It's not like something where everyone's just like, how high can the price go?
I feel like
I have a hard
retail,
time seeing a ton of adoption there from retail.
but here's how I see
your
it.
guys. Yeah, love your guys'
Here's
opinions
how
on
I
that.
see it. As retail comes in and it learns hex. So let's say, all right, so you got what's called the pie, right? You like to use the pie analogy. You got the pie, that's retail's coming in into a hex. Well, there's going to be a 10 or 20 or even 30% of that pie who are like us, big brained or want to get more big brain, and they go down the rabbit hole a lot more. And then so a lot of that economic energy bleeds out, even when the retail's coming in, because some of part of that retail are people like us. We were retail at one point in time or another. We were retail coming in, buying the Bitcoin top because we saw people getting Lamborghinis. Oh, well, I want that. Right. And so I feel like we will see some retail coming into the Hedron ecosystem after they've came to Hex, or maybe after they came to Pulse Chain. Maybe they're like tourists, right? They come into Pulse Chain, they're a tourist, they're looking around, they're buying a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They find out Hex is the real reason why this exists. So now they park some money in Hex. And they go, oh, what's this freaking Hedron thing? And they start going down the rabbit hole. And it's going to be the right fit for some people, but some people, it's just not going to be their cup of tea, like you said earlier. It won't be. And it might be a majority of the retail it's not their cup of tea, but the small retail that it is, I really feel like it could really do wonders in the ecosystem. And so what's your thoughts, Sloth?
Yeah, I'm of similar opinion. I get both arguments. You know, it's like it's too complicated. No one wants to spend the time. They just want to buy the thing with the dog on it and then make money and then right.
We could put a sloth on a coin, and I'm sure that would be just
I
fine.
bet it'd do good.
But Hedron and Icosa have one thing going for it, or two things I would say going for it that distinguish it from other coins in the ecosystem when major retail comes in. Because I don't think Hex has had that yet. Hex has not had a big influx of retail the same way like Doge, XRP, even Ethereum. Like we're still completely big caps.
Yep.
Yeah, Shiba, like we haven't had that kind of growth yet. I think it will happen, but not yet.
Ooh, oh my God.
Thing.
You think that happens this cycle?
I think there's a strong probability of it. And if not this cycle, then probably next cycle when everybody sees that Hex has continuously just outperformed everything else, like consistently. Like, yeah, Shiba has done better returns than Hex, but will it do it again in the same way? Or will Hex be the thing that has consistently outperformed Bitcoin and Ethereum over time? Like Hex is on its way to make its third top versus Bitcoin, which I don't think has ever been done in any crypto quite yet. Like they've made like one, maybe two tops, but nothing has done three tops against Bitcoin, and it's looking to do a very similar thing against ETH. So like these are metrics that don't have precedent of being broken quite yet, and Hex is about to break them in ways that other things haven't before, and that's just going to force people to pay attention. Like there are people who are delusional and will continue to say Hex is a Ponzi and a scam, and Richard Hart pumped it in this way to get you to come in so he can use you as exit liquidity. But at some point, people are just not going to be delusional anymore. They'll be like, okay, something else is going on in here. Let me pay attention. And then the flip is going to switch, and then the floodgates are going to open in. Now, the thing that Hedron has, the two things. One, it has pretty much universally been accepted into the collective conscious of Hex that Hedron is a part of the system. Like when people talk about Hex, almost always you'll notice they say something about Hedron. Even if they don't completely like it, they'll at least say, but HSIs are cool. Like that at least I don't like the token. We don't need the token, but the HSI is cool. At that point, we're in. People are talking about it. It's done. The second reason is that Hedron is intimately connected from a search engine algorithmic standpoint to Hex. So we were talking about all the speculative stickiness intellectual stickiness that Hedron has, where you continuously come back to it to learn more about it. Well, what does that mean? You're spending more time on YouTube. You're spending more time on TikTok. You're spending more time on the computer being fed videos and content about it. And that's exactly what the algorithms look for when they recommend you content. They look forward to the thing that gets you to click on the next video and gets you to stay for longer. Oh, and that's exactly what Hedron and Icosa content does. Whoa. So when people start typing in, what is Hex? What is the T share? What is the B share? How do I create my Hex stakes? Hedron and Icosa content are going to be recommended to it because people like me, people like you are creating content, tagging it, and the algorithm notices the people who are watching Hex stuff are going to this other content too. And then this is the cool thing. Once they start going into the Hedron and Icosa stuff, they're like, whoa, okay, so it's every day you get a certain B share. Every day you mint a Hedron for each B share that you have. What's that? What's this? I hear these T share thing, but what's this B share thing? And then they go back to the Hex content and understand it better because they're trying to understand the Hedron content. It's a synergistic thing, both from the code standpoint and from a search engine optimization standpoint too. And that's why I don't really worry that much about like it being too complicated, because naturally I think we don't give new people as much credit as we should. I think that generally they're interested to learn, and when you have a blank slate, you're much more amenable to new ideas and complex ideas. So they're going to be fresh and they're going to be learning the stuff all at the same time. And that's what I believe Hedron and Icosa will get a significant percentage of the retail influx of the Hex when those barriers come down.
I like that. Yeah, Frank nailed it.
That's a lot, but yeah, there you go.
Hedron and Icosa, he's saying it's kind of like a trilogy: Jordan, Pippin, Madison, Levine, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an excellent point. These guys are loving it. Bright Light Crypto says, Sloth, give me goosebumps with that. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a great comment. I think it's akin to a gambling high, but the more we learn, the lower the risk. Let's be the house. Absolutely. Love that analogy. That's money.
It was money.
Let's see. There are a few others that I wanted. Oh, Frank asked a great question earlier. Where did it go, Frank? He's saying, are there still good values to get on HSI auctions? 50% discounts or better.
Well, you want to pull up my screen? We can find out live.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So this is the good HSI deal on lookintohedron.com. And what I did here is I pull the 6 stakes that are about to end the soonest on the liquidation auction. And when you click it, it'll run all the calculations to see whether it's a good deal or not. So it'll tell you the most recent bid, the amount of Icosa that if you exchange it gave it back to the contract, the dollar value of that, and then the cost to make that same stake if you bought Hex off the market. And then it'll tell you that bid relative to these two values, are you getting a good deal? So right now, this first stake that's about to end, it has a $586 bid, and that's $1,500 under the price to make the stake today. So you are getting a good deal relative to that.
Yeah. Oh, this is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So it pulls all this data live. Every time you click it, it refreshes it. So if you're looking at the same one and you click it again, it'll pull all the data again. This one's like a $600 deal. This one, let's see, 500. Yeah. I mean, there are constant deals coming out. This one, $700 deal. Like, it's this one up $5,000 deal over. So that's like a 50% off, 60% off. And I like this button right here. I'm kind of proud of this one. You click it and then it'll pull the person who made the last bid, so you can see who you're bidding against too.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. You can see what their bags are like.
Yep. So there's only one drawback to this one, and that's, let's see if it comes up. Okay, so if it shows, oh, you can't see it on your screen right now, but if you have, you know how sometimes it says lost, like when you haven't won it and somebody else did. Unfortunately, my thing still brings those into consideration. So if you really want something, you'll have to end those yourself and then to bring it to the top. That's the only drawback I haven't been able to work around. But this is a free tool on my website, so if you're ever wanting to do those calculations quickly,
Bro, you just blew my brain. You know how many times I've participated a lot in the HSI auctions. In fact, that's where I've gotten a lot of my cheapest Hex from, is the HSI auctions and my T-shares. It's been amazing. But man, there's been late at night when I'm wishing I knew how much the other guy had on the other side of the screen, that is this guy going to keep bidding against me? And you get the 5 minutes, you're going back and forth. You're 30 minutes in, you're like, God, how much more money does this guy got? That right there fixes that problem.
There you go.
Yeah. One of the things that I really like about Icosa is the yield is so strong that you don't need that strong a price performance when factoring in the yield on your initial money in to really make a massive dent in things. I mean, you get a 4x in yield plus a 25x in price appreciation. There's 100x. You know what I mean? It's pretty.
The numbers
remarkable.
don't have to be that crazy for you to get
Right.
like crazy returns. Yep.
Right.
And
right.
the cool thing is, like, if you look at hexmodel.com, which is Dev Huey, he's the one who made that. Incredible data scientist, has an awesome website. You'll see that 90% of the total Icosa is staked. So most of it's locked up, which is pretty incredible, in my opinion.
So speculate on this. And who was I talking to the other day? I can't remember if it was on our show, Corey, or if I was just shooting the breeze with somebody and they made this point. We were talking about how Alex from Hedron, he burned kind of like the seed liquidity. He burned a bunch of Hedron and makes it so that we have a nice drip every single day, regardless of what's going on in the auction for the first, a little bit over a year or so. And then that liquidity will dry up. And I think it's, we don't know. Maybe he could burn more, but to bet on that is probably I would say it's unreasonable to bet that that's going to occur again. So with that being said, what, do you think that the Icosa stakers, do you have any idea, how might we be able to speculate about what the yield might be in the Icosa pool after that time frame? Is there any way that be able to speculate on that based on the data that we've currently seen?
Yeah. So, God, I don't remember the number off the top of my head. I used to know. Let me ask in a Telegram group really quickly, so someone can give me the answer. Anyone know what the seed daily liquidity yield is for Icosa? And then I'll tell you the numbers off the top of my head that I remember. And then if I get corrected, then we can change it. But if I remember correctly, it's about 40,000 hex per Icosa per day that's distributed to each of the pools between 40 and 50,000. And looking at the website right now, I'm seeing upwards of in the six figures of Icosa being distributed every day to each of the pools. So the Icosa seed liquidity, as far as I can remember it, is actually like only a small fraction of the total yield that we're getting right now. So I don't think, yeah. So
you said there's six figures in Icosa being distributed to each pool per day?
That's what it looks like. I'm looking at on day.
Yeah, so it is just a little trickle.
Yeah, it's just a little trickle of it. And that was just to make sure that we saw yield coming in. But we've had so much Hedron being burned from these auctions that it's pretty much nullified. It's pretty much dwarfed the seed liquidity. So that was kind of like a just in case people don't sell the HSIs and we don't get that much. There's at least something coming out that first year to get people engaged. But it seems like, that's not that crazy. It was 3.47 trillion Hedron that was burned before Icosa launched.
Right.
And then if I go to the total amount of Hedron that's been burned up until now, that is about 84 trillion. So,
okay.
81 trillion Hedron has been burned that has been going into yield, and only 3 trillion of Hedron that's been burned is part of the seed liquidity. So the burning from the auctions has vastly outperformed the burning of the seed liquidity, which means the yield is outperforming. Yeah. So I think the system's in a very healthy state. Very, very healthy state.
3.5%. Wow. Huh. Interesting. And Kimpachi, I'm going to say it's Kimpachi. Yes. If I'm pronouncing your name wrong, forgive me. But thank you for correcting me. Great point. Alex never burned any Hedron. The SA did.
Yes.
We don't know who that is. So thank you for.
That could be Elon Musk. Why not?
I mean, why not?
Why not, man? It's not Greg the Duck, though. We know Greg the Duck is he's the OA. So
dude, that's who I buy my fluffy slippers from.
That's where, right. That's where I get
my posture's gotten better since I started watching. Right.
Yeah, my back is straight. I put WD-40 on my chair. It doesn't squeak.
Make sure, man. And
man,
love it.
That guy is taking the community by storm. I love it.
Oh, man. Amazing.
Well, and the content is good. There's a lot of there's not many people that can combine good, solid information and make it engaging in crypto, and he's cracked the nut there. It's been great.
And still be a truth teller without getting overly ridiculous with your moon math. Hex is going to $8,000. It's just math. Come on, bro.
It's coded.
And we are just exit liquidity. I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Homophobic asked a good question. Shouldn't Hedron price move with Hex? If you just popped in, go ahead and go back. We kind of talked about this earlier. Sloth made a great point and Corey too, that they thought it would kind of be like a rubber band effect where you see money go into Bitcoin first, and then once Bitcoin kind of finds a stability at a price, that moves to ETH, and then from ETH to altcoins. And the general thesis here on the show today is that Hex will act similarly. As money goes into Hex and Hex finds stability, then the money will flow out to some of the other assets like Hedron and Icosa, and you see a rubber band effect.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I mean, we could shoot the breeze about Hedron and Icosa all day. We've already been on for 50 minutes. Why don't let's do a little real estate roundtable type of thing. We'd love to help you out with any questions. So to give the audience a little bit of background, when we were in the green room, Sloth wanted to pick our brains a little bit about real estate related things, and this is such a critical component, you guys, of your plan when it comes to how you're going to preserve your money. If you have not had an experience where you've made a large sum of money during the year, and it feels awesome and euphoric, and then the next year the government takes you, bends you over a couch, and gives it to you while you're kicking and screaming the whole time, that is not an experience you want to have again. And so you need to have something as part of your strategy to make it so that the government passes you by and they find somebody else to bend over and you are clear.
Yeah, it feels like you get rinsed. It really does. Like your bank account is one amount one day, and the next thing you know, like what? Like you just feel like you completely got your wallet was rinsed.
Yeah, it's like, man, I did all the hard work for this money. I did all the hard work. I got to give it away. Yeah. So it's that funny meme or with like Bugs Bunny. It's like your risk, our gain. Like the comments. Your risk, our reward. That's what
that is it. And guys, before we dive into this, smash the likes for me, please.
Likes.
Smash, and subscribe if it's your first time here.
Absolutely. Yeah, so let's start. We've got some guys that own some acreage here. I own 1,200 acres. God bless my granddad. Very cool. Frank is one of the guys that we know. Frank is a real estate person as well. There's a bunch of you guys here in the chat that are real estate people. So if you have any commentary to add to what we go through here next, feel free to post it in the chat. You guys have been super active. We appreciate all your feedback.
So I'll just give you my current thoughts on like real estate generally, and then you maybe tell me how maybe I should change my thinking or anything you think I should add, and then maybe I'll have also maybe some specific questions I'd like to know too.
Yeah, let's do it.
So my general idea for real estate, I think you said it beautifully, Corey, at the beginning, is that it's more of a wealth preservation asset, where it's like, you've made you've made some gains somewhere, whether it be like your job or for us, my specific situation, crypto, and I want to park it somewhere where I am confident that it's not going to lose value over time, but I'm not necessarily looking for crazy returns like I am for crypto. Now, real estate seems to be the place to do that, and also it has a lot of other benefits, like tax benefits with like stuff like depreciation, potential for like income generation if you want to rent it out and whatnot. And there's a lot of different ways for your money to work for you in multiple ways with real estate. And I watched the stream you did with Hexray Vision and the other guy that you had on, and I like the stuff that he was talking about, where it's like it's not an income generating asset or passive income. It's like premium income, something like that. Something along those lines. So that's kind of where my head's at, where it's like, yeah, I think at some point it would be nice to own a property, maybe have it generate income for me, maybe not. Maybe it's like just like a home instead of like a business property. The main things I'm worried about is like how much work is it going to be? Because like, owning a property is a lot of work, and like honestly, I don't think I really want to do any of that, to be totally honest. Like that income that you get,
nobody wants to.
It sucks, and there's nothing passive about real estate. It's a lie.
Yeah,
so that's just another narrative. Like how we have narratives in crypto, you have narratives in this asset class too. And part of the narratives the gurus are going to sell you on is that real estate's a passive income play. Well, it's not. The only way it is if you build up large sums of money and you're giving it to operators for operators to go out there and invest. And there you got to be careful what kind of operators you pick, because some of them can burn you. Or me and Dana picked a couple bad operators before, and we've picked good ones too. And so you got to be careful about that. But there's really nothing about real estate. I mean, I built up a multi-million-dollar a year flipping company. In a flipping company, wholesale and flipping company, that takes a lot of employees, a lot of marketing costs. I built myself a massive job. It was a good paying job. It was a
Real
really
good
good
thing,
paying
yeah.
job. And yeah, the only way I was able to participate into crypto the way I am been able to participate in crypto is because of that. So there's nothing passive about it. And to your other point, me talking about using it as a wealth preservation, that is a great tool, but there is something to be said about if you did go out there and create like a wholesaling business, not because of the real estate aspect of it, because you're creating a business. We were talking about this before a little bit backstage. You talking about creating a dentist practice where it would be your own business. There's something to be said about that when you create a business, that the growth that you get from that mentally, spiritually, physically, and financially. I tell everyone real estate saved my life because before I was in real estate, I was a degenerate alcoholic, drug addict, womanizer. I mean, I was one of the worst type of human beings that most people despise, except for other people who are like me, is who I used to hang out with. And so real estate changed my mindset. It changed my thinking because I started hanging around people who operate at a higher level. I joined masterminds, but you can get this in any in owning any type of business. It wasn't the real estate that did it; it was the business aspect that did it. And so when you create your dentist practice, you as a person, it will change you. It's going to change you inside out, spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. Those are my 4 pillars in life, by the way.
It has to, or you'll get crushed.
Yeah, spiritually, mental, physical, and financial are my 4 pillars that I always want to be improving on every day of my life. And real estate's been able to teach me that, and it saved my life. I'm sober now off of drugs and alcohol for years, and
Congratulations.
thank you. I'm married. I have a beautiful, she's almost 2 years old. She's 19 months. She's a 19-month-old daughter. And none of this stuff would have happened to me, including this crypto journey I'm on right now. None of this would have happened to me if it went for real estate and went for me creating that business. So there's definitely something to be said about creating a business and being an entrepreneur. It's not so much the real estate side of things, I think, where real estate's great. You can use as a tool if you want to create a business around real estate to have a wealth creation out of it. It's a hustle and it's tough and there's nothing passive about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of went on a tangent there, more on entrepreneurship than real estate. But yes, that's something that I believe very passionate about.
And I would add, I mean, so I found it really, and I'll say this, and I want to qualify it because I don't mean to speak lightly of the topic. Because if this is you, I'm not talking down to anybody. I found it really odd when I came into crypto and people were talking about this sudden wealth syndrome thing. And I'm like, man, I would love that problem. That sounds like an excellent problem that I could figure out. And it's interesting because, I mean, you see the same type of thing when somebody hits the lottery or whatever, they're not prepared. And the thing that entrepreneurship has really given us, like I've been $100 million person in my mind for years. Yeah. It's just a matter of time to me. It's not if, it's when. And
Correct.
so I find it really interesting, and so I've given this a ton of thought, and the reason that I feel that way and the reason I am that way is because of my journey through entrepreneurship and through the heartache and through the blood, sweat, and tears. Man, people talk about crypto being hard, and once again, I don't want to make light of any of this. I get it. If you're somebody that's like really struggled, I'm not speaking down to you in any way. All you got to do is wait around longer. If you screw up your time frame, I mean, that's it. With being an entrepreneur, I mean, Corey and I have joked around, like we've had plenty of months where you're like, please God, I need to find another credit card to like keep things going this month, like. And you're trying to like rob Peter to pay Paul and juggle these balls and we've made, and like Corey and I have made millions of dollars separately. He's made millions, plural. I've made millions, plural. And and it's not clean and easy all the time. And
multiple lawsuits. I still got a lawsuit right now that I'm going through, and I'm not even practicing real estate. I'm not currently practicing acquisitions, locking up properties, doing this, and I got a lawsuit I'm dealing with right now still. So it's like it's gonna haunt me for a while because I created such a mess.
Yeah.
Out here, but the development and the growth out of it, I recommend anybody, especially if you're in crypto and you're trying to create wealth. There's something to be said about something that you have to like you kind of touched on it, Dane. You're already in $100 million mindset because you've gone through the trenches of being an entrepreneur, and you've molded the mindset to be in that fashion, and that's being in the masterminds that we've been in and all the books that we've read, and it's all, like we were forced to level up because of our business. It was forced. It wasn't like we could easily. I call it drifting in life. When you're drifters, when by the way, if you guys never read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, is a great book that will describe what a drifter is in life, and that's just somebody who goes to a 9-to-5 job every single day. And like I said, I'm not talking down to anybody here, but if you're just going to a 9-to-5 job, just doing the same thing every single day, you're drifting through life. You're not bringing any brand new value to the world. And there's something to be said about that. I forgot where I was going with the tangent there. I was kind of going off, but you have to learn to not be a drifter and to add value to humanity before I think you can be prepared to experience true wealth. That was it.
Love that. And I think it's great. I think Hex is such a cool thing that it can save people from themselves. Most people, right? Most people are well, let me take a step back. All of us are weak. Like, that's just human nature. All of us are weak in many different aspects. And so it's cool with Hex. You need to know yourself. And if you're like, man, I'm somebody that can't hold, then like freaking do a stake. I think that's a great idea. Yeah. But people are like, oh, my weak hands. I'm like, fuck that, man. You don't know the shit that I've been through. I can hold till I die. If that's what I feel like is required, that's nothing compared to what I've had to do to be a successful entrepreneur. I can do that for days. So I don't have any concerns about my ability to hold. And I know that from my own experience. So,
No, that's awesome. I appreciate that, guys.
Rob Peter to PayPal is my first employer.
Yeah.
Love it. There's some individualized questions in the comments, guys. So feel free to send us a DM. Twitter tends to be the best place. My link tree's here. You can find all my socials there. Corey, you can find him on Twitter. We'd be more than happy to help. Yeah.
Right. So they relate to me instead for crypto got me into buying home. Yeah, I think crypto can be a great, like I said before, it's going to be probably one of the best wealth creation asset class that any of us can experience. But we got to make sure that our mindset, is going to be in the right place when this happens. Because like you had said earlier, Dane, this whole sudden wealth syndrome thing, and that's what Matty Allen kind of caters to in his whole community. It can be a real thing. It really can be with that's why you do see the lottery winners. They get depressed. Some of them, you hear about the guy hit $100 million and then he committed suicide and wished he never had. It's crazy, right? The stories we hear, and it's just people just think they have $1 million in their bank account that all their problems are going to go away. I got news for you. It does not do nothing. All money does to anybody is amplify the person you already are. That's it. So if you're a bad person and you get a lot of money, it's going to make you a worse person. But if you're already a good person, you have a good heart, you're a good place mentally, physically, spiritually, the money's only going to make you better in that way. And so keep that in mind as you're trying to achieve this wealth journey that you're on. It's only going to amplify who you are as a person. 120%.
And you've got to find, like, purpose should be Corey and I could talk about this all day. You can see we're really passionate about this. Corey and I are like wealth building junkies. This is what we do for fun. And we've gotten within our own respects, relatively good within our own spheres, right? There's many levels to this. But we've figured it out some things. And you've got to find a purpose amidst all of this. What are you making the money for? I can tell you the reason that Corey and I do what we do, and the reason we have our own mastermind in our group is like we get lit on fire in helping people change their lives, to change their financial future, because we're wealth junkies. We love that stuff. I love the light in guys in their eyes when it finally clicks in the group and they're like, why would I do anything else? And I'm like, I know, right? and it's just like it's very special. And so what Corey and I do is purpose driven. You know, the money will be great and it'll be fun, but irrespective of the money, we're doing the things that we feel like we're called to do in our heart. We did it with real estate and we're doing it with crypto now, and it's beautiful if you surrender to the path that life and God and the universe or whatever you believe in lays before you. You can really have this very beautiful full life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it. That was beautiful.
We
went on a tangent there.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate it.
Real estate, but
yeah.
But that's what real estate did to us.
Sloth, we love this. So I mean, you've seen some of our content. We love. I mean, we're looking for more people like you, and any of you guys that are watching. I mean, we've got plenty of real estate people in the chat. We've got lots of you crypto big brains. You guys are the right people for our group, because we're building the bridge between the two communities. The real estate guys want the upside in crypto. The crypto guys need to find a way. And this is my personal mindset. If you don't live in Puerto Rico, then you're forced to buy real estate or get bent over by the government. Period. 100%. That's it. Or you could go buy businesses and offset your taxes that way. Like those are your options. And so you have to figure something out. And so me and Corey, we're moving to Puerto Rico because I want to buy real estate as part of like, I don't want to feel like I have to buy it. I want to buy it because it's the right assets, because I want to buy those assets. And so that's the purpose of the group, is to be able to give everybody optionality to do whatever they want and not get bent over by the government. And that's very important.
Yeah, definitely interested in hopping in there with you guys, just figuring out like what the right real estate deal is for me and like my situation, because I'm sure there's, just like with anything, there's real estate is just this all encompassing terms that encompasses like so many things, right? So I'm sure like, everybody can find the right thing for them to like, for their specific situation. And then,
absolutely. I'm hoping that type of stuff.
Yeah. I'm hoping to have the same success that you guys have had, with your real estate stuff and my personal realms of, dentistry, crypto and whatnot. So, looking forward to learning from you guys and seeing what you guys have been dedicating your lives towards.
It's fun, man. I do want to touch. So, and Frank asked it, and I'm curious too. So I want to get into this. Let's finish it here. So we all feel like our crypto position should put us in a place where theoretically we don't need to work. We don't need to, do anything in regards to generating revenue after this next bull cycle. So, why dentistry? Dentistry is long, it's arduous, it's very expensive. Love your
suicide rate
on why you're doing that.
Yeah, no, great question. Bring me back to my dental school interview days. Why dentistry? But so it's I guess the best way to describe it is like dentistry is like a hard skill, right? It's a skill where you can affect somebody's life in real time immediately. Right. So like someone comes in with pain, you can get them out of that pain. And like, that's like pretty significant. If you've ever had dental pain before, like the inability to eat, like it just like you take for granted, like just everything working. And when it doesn't, like, it's just, it's excruciating. And like, you can really change somebody's life that way.
My wife's going through it right now. She's got, we were at the dentist before this interview.
Yeah. Your life comes to a halt. And there's a certain reward of being able to give somebody a smile. Right. Like smile, like I'm sure like you guys doing like real estate deals, like the way you present yourself is very important. First impressions, looking good. And like your smile is a huge part of that. And so a lot of people feel like they can't connect to others in the world because they're embarrassed or self-conscious about their smile. So like having that skill to be able to help people in such a tangible and direct way, like ingrained into like my neuromuscular junction, is something very important to me personally. And the ability to help somebody on that level is something that I just want to have. And so like there are a bunch of downsides, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, but that's just the price I'm going to pay for something that I want. And I'm okay with that. This is a skill that I want to have and a skill that I want to share with other people. And hopefully crypto can help me share that with more people on a greater scale. But yeah, that's why.
Would you do that if you're worth 100 million? I'm really curious. Like, I love how you're saying it feels very purpose driven, which I think is important. Is it something that you would do even if money wasn't a factor?
Yeah, I think so. I think Hexicans need a dentist too.
Certainly.
Yeah.
A dinner at Mexico.
No, I feel if I were to think of a life where I didn't have some sort of clinical practice, it feels kind of like something's missing. Like there's some emptiness there. At least right now. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm 27. Things can change in the future, but at least right now, a clinical practice, being able to I'm in my 3rd year of dental school, and I'm like doing procedures on like people now, right? And there's some like just satisfaction of being able to like walk in that room, know what you're doing, them looking at you to like give them answers, and then you doing it with your hands, not just like writing a prescription or something, but like extractions are my favorite thing to do. I go in, I take the tooth out, they're happy, I'm happy, I feel accomplished. That's just, I feel like that's something that's a grounding thing. Having a tangible skill where you can affect people's material well-being or their health, I think is a really grounding thing that no matter how much money I have in the future is something I want to always like come back to. And that's what that's what I'm doing. I'm building that right now.
I like that. I like that.
I love it.
Cool. Well, I'm going to stick here in the bottom of the screen, you guys. If you want to come and check out the group, once again, no pressure from us. If it's not for you, that's fine. We're a little over 70 members right now. I cannot think of a better place that you can come if your desire is to preserve wealth and offset taxes in a legal way. I don't know a better place to come and do that.
Legal way.
Our intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, legally. Yeah.
I got one more question for you, Sloth, before we wind this down. Where did Crypto Sloth come from? Like, where's all this? Like,
the hat today.
Yeah, I can't find my hat. I was looking for it. I was like, where'd it go? I have to find it. I felt bad. Like I'm not bringing like a piece of me's missing. But it's just my favorite animal, man. It's my soul animal. It's my soul animal. Yeah, my spirit animal. That's what it is. It's my spirit animal.
All right.
It was in 4th grade. They asked do a project on an animal. And something in my head just said sloth, and I said sloth. I just decided that's going to be my favorite animal, and so I just made my name really cryptic. Crypto Sloth. I just moved on, and I like it. I'm actually pretty happy with it.
It's awesome because you're creating
this cool guy right here.
You're creating a great brand around it. I mean, it's been
it's
phenomenal.
Cool.
I mean,
everyone making jokes on how I'm late to stuff.
or all you got to do is mention Hedron, and you'll show up in the chat. That's all Randy does. Randy will like. That's great.
That's so weird. Like it just happens. Like I just pop into a stream. They just happen to be talking about Hedron. Like I guess something summoning me. There's some success.
I think you started watching our show the first time I wore the Hedron shirt.
I was there with you. Yeah, I was watching.
Well, this has been awesome, eh? We appreciate everybody in the comments. This is a great question. And when Sloth merch?
Seriously,
it'll happen. It'll happen one day. I'm working on some things in the background right now. For like my personal brand and like a diversification of content creation, but like merch is on the table. Like I'll say it here. This isn't for a long time, but I'm sure NFTs will be on the table one day. I think NFTs are an incredible thing to.
How dare you?
Yeah, dude, what are you talking about? We all own Watsons. Like we're all NFT G-Gens already, baby.
I know. I have a lot of HSIs and Watsons.
Right.
Yeah. But like I do have plans to build Crypto Sloth as a brand, crypto education. Not just Hedron and Icosa stuff. Like that's kind of like how I've made my name. But like I have big interest in DeFi, liquidity providing, portfolio management, risk management, and just general like ways to like develop a mindset that facilitates success in the crypto realm. So these are all things that I'm building, all things that I'm working towards building and building into my brand as I go forward. Yeah.
Well, do us a huge favor, man. Shill your stuff. If you have a group, if you have somewhere people can find you, and shill everything you got going on, man. If people want to hear more about you and learn, because man, you're one of the giga brains in crypto, in my opinion.
That's kind of you to say. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for lending me your platform to talk about some of the stuff that I'm doing. So I would say first, if you're interested in one-on-one consultations, I do that. Just DM me on Twitter and we'll figure out a time that works best. They're about an hour and they go for $400 an hour. If you need, we can work out like a half an hour call. I'm very flexible. I was doing a private group with Silver the Antidote and Access Alive. We did that a route for the Icosa launch. And we stopped that about last month, but we will be launching up for the Pulse Chain launch. So whenever Pulse Chain's coming around, we're going to be opening that up again. So keep your eyes out for that. I'm also working very closely with Axis and his stuff on axisalive.com. So we're right now in the background planning a like liquidity providing bootcamp course, like a 2-day live course where we just go like 0 to 100 on liquidity providing. And so in the next couple weeks,
oh yeah, count us in on that.
I would be in that. I would come and join in, and I know
it's an important skill.
It is a very important skill. I understand the basics of it. I've done some he and Dane have done liquidity providing. Unfortunately, we got kind of wrecked doing it. But we've learned a lot.
I heard this. Yeah.
Yeah, we've learned a lot doing it. And at the very least, right now, my journey with liquidity providing, I know how to provide liquidity. If I want to exit a position or if I wanted to basically set a limit order on a position, I could do that too. And so I'm feel real confident in those two skill sets. Now, anything in between that where I'm trying to like provide liquidity for passive income and trying to control it without getting wrecked, it's just not to my my liking yet. Not to say that could be in the future though. So.
Well, Silver's going to be helping out with that course, and he's somebody who's very experienced in terms of generating like income from liquidity providing to service his actual life. He talked about that pretty extensively in the Discord group for a while there. So he's going to be helping us out, and he'll be a good resource for anybody watching as well that's interested in learning about like. When I say the 3 ways to do it: entering a position, exiting a position, and trying to earn fees. And that third one's like the hardest. But
agreed.
Yeah. But as you guys know, things are going to change once Tetra launches. The whole landscape for liquidity providing is going to change.
It's going to be awesome, bro. We didn't even touch on that in the show, man. You're right. You're creating all kinds of roadmaps and different like game theory, like smart contract stuff. That's going to be awesome on Tetra. That's going to be super exciting, man.
But so that's my stuff. Consult, hit me up on Twitter right there, Sloth Crypto 3 on Twitter, Crypto Sloth on YouTube. Look into Hedron for all those cool tools we were talking about.
Yes.
Keep an eye out for my stuff with Axis and Silver, and keep an eye out for the Discord coming out soon. Anybody, both you guys, seriously, thank you for bringing me on. This hour flew by. I can't tell you, like, this was a quick hour.
It was fun.
I had a ton of fun.
Absolutely. And I want to make sure that we nail down, you guys, Corey and I have spent 6 figures a piece on coaching and events during our career. And we've on a lot of that. Here's crypto numbers for you. We've 100x'd the value, the amount of money we've made on the cost of coaching and events. And so like, it's a no brainer if you're getting help from the right people. So I know that a lot of people in the community, they're not big advocates for paying for help. If that's you, that's fine. We totally respect that. But there's certainly something to be said. If you have somebody that you want to connect with, that you think could really benefit you, a little bit of money for the right help can go a long way. So, use that for however you want to craft your own journey.
I'm paying Gamma right now to teach me the node validator. Like I'm learning Linux. I'm learning, it's not easy stuff, learning how to spin up a server. And so but I know he knows that road. Like I could copy and paste what he's already learned, and I can cut myself. I was essentially ahead of the line and avoid the pitfalls that he has gone through of learning to be a node validator. It's the same thing with everything in life.
Yep.
And
how much is your time worth?
It's how much your time worth. When you launch your liquidity providing, you and Axis start and Silver go into that kind of stuff, and I mean, I'm signing up.
I appreciate that. Yeah. There's definitely not an error, but like a segment of the community who's very, very adamant against people charging for stuff in the community.
Yeah, and they've been in crypto for 10 years, and it's like they forget what it's like when they were first got into crypto and they're first learning what a hardware wallet is and how to, connect, how to move around in DeFi without getting hacked.
Can you imagine if you could take all the money that you lost and all the bullshit and just paid that to somebody to help you do it right the first time? Oh my God.
Right?
Yes.
It's been great.
I actually been thinking of and would make the counter argument. We want people who provide real tangible value to be financially compensated, because that will incentivize them to come back and continue to produce that work that's elevating the community up. Because if everybody does everything for free, they're not going to come back to do it because they need to make money for their real life. But if if they're legitimately providing value, like that's the caveat. But if they're doing that, you want them to be financially compensated, to be motivated to continue to work and figure out other ways to provide values to the community. That's at least my opinion on it.
Agreed. And they're onboarding. They're pumping everybody's bags. They're bringing in new people. I don't know how you can talk bad about that. So
but hey.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Crypto Sloth. Make sure that you go follow him. His stuff is absolute fire if you're not aware. So follow him, soak up all that goodness, and we'll see you guys later this week.
See you guys.
Peace out.